Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant, John Solider. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Hey, this is going to be a fun one. You know, Luke, we've got somebody on here that's hasn't been in the industry for 30 years. You weren't even alive 30 years ago. But anyway, let me introduce my new friend, Mr. Luke Hessler, all the way from beautiful Michigan State country, Lansing, Michigan. How's the weather up there today?
It's actually nice. Snow's gone now. Sun's coming out. We're turning the corner.
Oh, good, good, good. So you'll be out hitting some balls here in the near future, eh?
That's right. That's right. Actually, just got back from the Masters, so excited. I'm inspired.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, Luke, you know, you've got such an amazing story and pedigree for this industry, having been a super successful distributor at a very, very young age. Why don't you share how you got started?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It means a lot, especially coming from you. And yeah, I think my story is unique in the sense that it started when I was very young. I got started in this industry when I was 19 years old. And they say that people do things for one of two reasons. You know, it's for either to avoid pain or to go towards pleasure. And for me, it really was avoiding pain. I was in a place in my life that I just frankly looked in the mirror and I didn't like who was looking back. I grew up with two amazing parents who, taught me that as long as I love God and, treat others like to be treated, I can have be or do anything that I want in this world. Success was never really something for me that I hoped and dreamed for, but it was something that I expected of myself and was expected of, me from my family. But when I went to college, I didn't have sports in my life anymore, which was a huge part of my life in high school. And so I kind of got into the party scene and joined a fraternity and things like that. And I like to say that God kept me on a small leash because within 1 year, I didn't get one, not two, but three minor possessions of alcohol after drinking for 1 year because I didn't drink and do anything in high school. So it was like I had my 1 year and I got caught three times. And so I took that as a sign that, okay, maybe this isn't the direction I'm supposed to go in my life. But I remember actually this turning point in this because every time I got caught, I promised my mom, like, I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry, these types of things. But then I did it again, because I thought I wouldn't get caught again. What are the chances? And I remember this one time when I was in it's called the drunk tank, and you gotta call someone to bail me out for my $250. I didn't even have that to my name at that time. And I had to call my mom at 3 a.m. And it was just like the hardest phone call I've ever made. And I remember sitting there looking in this little mirror in this drunk tank, looking back at myself. And like I said, I didn't like the person that was looking back at me in the mirror. And I just remember saying a prayer to God. I'm like, God, I hear you. Okay. I'm changing my life. I don't know what I'm going to do or what it's going to be, but I'm going to make something of myself and it's going to be different now. And so I made that phone call, one of the hardest phone calls of my life, broke my parents' heart. And just started on a different path, though. It set a different intention. And then 4 months later, a friend of mine brought network marketing to me. And at the time, I really wasn't open-minded to it because I thought it was just one of those things. But he told me that, he was making $1,000 a month from it and that he could introduce me to a guy who was 25 making $40,000 a month to it. And at that time, I owed some money to some lawyers for my stuff. And so I was like, okay, anything to make some money. Let's go ahead and figure this out. And so I got on the call, quite frankly, to figure out why it wouldn't work. I wanted to figure out that one little thing that wouldn't allow this business model to really flourish. And I thought it was one of these things where the guy at the top recruits people at the bottom do all the work, guy at the top gets paid, all of this kind of stuff. And upon further examination of the whole opportunity, it transformed my perspective because I didn't see what I thought I was going to see, but instead I saw a business model that I genuinely thought had a heart. Because what I realized is that in network marketing, the only way I could make a dime was by helping someone else make a dollar. And so it was really interesting because I was going to school at the time for international business. And one of the things we learned was kind of about the two dark and light side of human nature and how kind of our economic systems are set up around people looking for profit or versus, on the dark side and on the light side, people trying to help other people and things and how incentive structures are set. And there's always these competing philosophies. But what I thought was so interesting about network marketing is that it didn't really matter if you're someone in it for profit for yourself or if you're in it with the light side of human nature for other people. The only way you could help yourself was by helping other people. And so I thought this was an amazing model. I actually was so inspired by it that I took my research paper, my thesis that I had been, spending all semester to write, and I canned it. And in 48 hours, I rewrote the entire thing on network marketing because I was just like, this is a game-changing thing, and it changed the game for me. So I got that into it. But the problem is I didn't have any money to get started, so I had to go to my parents and ask for a loan to get started, and they thought I was crazy because I already owed them a lot of money from bad decisions, and they didn't understand this industry at all. And so I ended up writing a proposal to them to try and give me $600 to get started in the business. And I showed them my paper that I wrote, and I'm like, hey, I got a 4.0. Like, my teacher liked it. I think I have something here. And so reluctantly, they ended up giving me $600 to get started, to teach me a lesson that these things don't work. And I was off and running, and I had to go make money because if I didn't break even that first month, I didn't have any more money for the auto ship the next month. And so I remember it to this day. I needed 6 on one side, 5 on the other in order to make more money than I was spending on a monthly basis. I went to my fraternity, and I was the definition of ignorance on fire. Everybody decided to listen, and I got a bunch of people to join very quickly. Went home for Christmas break, thought all of them would go do the exact same thing and tell their friends, and it was going to explode. We're going to be millionaires. Came back, every single one of them had quit on me. And so I was back down to 0 on my team. And at that point, I had a decision to make. I was like, okay, either I'm going to really commit to this thing, or I'm just going to make an excuse, say it didn't work, blame it on the model, things like that. And I didn't really have another option at the time. I had this big epiphany and this realization. I'm like, if I really believe this, I got to go for it. So at that point, I just tried to do anything that I could. I remember going around campus. I put flyers that said, need money, but don't have time for a job. And I posted them all over campus. And, at the time in 2011, Facebook just started to be a thing. So I was like, oh, maybe I can message people on there and all these things. And I kind of just like stumbled my way and failed my way forward, for about 6 months, where I never really got to the point where I was making any money, but at least I was covering my auto ship and kind of figuring some things out. And about 6 months into it, I started to really learn social media. I started to learn how to build a brand of myself online. I started to learn how to network and talk to people through Messenger. And I ended up meeting a kid who was working at Taco Bell at the time. And he was the first one that saw the vision that I saw, and we kind of teamed up at that point, and we went all in. And from that time on, things really changed. And they changed really quickly. 6 months from there, I was at a 6-figure income. I think it was 8 months after that, it was multiple 6 figures. I went to my parents. I'm like, give me a semester to go all in on this thing, because I was doing it part-time. At that time, I'm like, this is what I was able to do part-time. Treat it like an internship. If it doesn't work, I'll come back to school, but like, let me see what I can really do with this thing. They gave me a semester to go all in, and it just continued to grow for me. And so by the time I was 23, I had a team of about 10,000 people, all college students. Average age was probably 20, 21 years old. We're just going from college campus to college campus, telling the story of student loan debts, making money on the internet, part-time income, things like that. Really resonated. And I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. That I had an unfortunate wake-up call where that company, no longer was around, had to shut its doors. So I went from making a lot of money to a little money very quickly, which was painful for me because my expenses didn't really change. But I actually felt more painful for the people that I was leading, because there was a car program in that company where you hit like a certain level and they paid your car payments on a car. So like in my team, I had like 53, I think, Mercedes Benzes on my team. And these are 20, 21-year-olds, and their payments were still due, but now their checks were gone. And so I felt responsible for that because they were leading me. And so ended up kind of like transitioning over to another company, I didn't even know what these were when I first started the industry, but I think like a BDA, and hit this pretty big, and did a lot of volume very quickly, made a lot of money very quickly, but I paid all that money out to my team, as I kind of help with the transition over. And so that was actually when I was 23, my first time I ever made $100,000 and then spent $100,000 in a month and then spent $100,000 in a month, same month. And so I really didn't go forward at all, but at least it helped me sleep at night because no one like lost their car. No one did anything to my knowledge that I know of, and so that was a good thing. And then in a new company, but that one didn't really work out the way I thought it was going to either. And so at that point, I just, kind of reevaluated where I was at within the industry and what I wanted to go out there and do. And then I decided to start my agency in 2017, which is, what I've been doing now, ever since then. So that's about a decade's worth of information and about 10 minutes for you, like a fire hose to the face. So,
Well, it's just so amazing because I'm listening to your story, and I knew your story, of course, but now I hear it again. And what's amazing to me is very similar to what happened to me. I was at the end of college when I started, as you know, I was 21. I was an old guy. I was 21, you're 19. And anyway, same thing, went way up. And I did finish college. I only had a month left when I heard of network marketing. But if I had heard about it at the age you were, I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have said, hey, let me go do this because this is what I was made to do. And my parents were like your parents, non-entrepreneurs, non-business people, looked at it like you're going to go sell vitamins. Like, come on, like you have an education, go do something with it. I'm like, yeah, nothing wrong with selling vitamins. But very same thing. Company had a problem with FDA, and my business was basically gone in overnight. And fortunately, I wasn't making the kind of money you were, so I didn't have to cover anybody else's bills. But same thing, and it only made me that much more determined. Two things. Number one, that I was going to learn the business because I really didn't learn the business initially. I learned some concepts, but I didn't learn the business. I had to learn the business side of this thing. And number two, what that taught me is what to look for in a company. And there were so many companies that have come and gone in 40 years that you could see the earmarks. They weren't going to last. They just product deficiencies, capital deficiencies, integrity deficiencies. So, you and I have had a very, very similar path, but here's where your path got different and remarkable is that you decided, hey, I want to go on the picks and shovels side rather than the other side, right? I want to help people like yourself or myself or other network marketers to utilize media professionally to get their story out, their personal story, or in some cases, their corporate story, if they're a corporate owner or senior level executive. And that's what you're doing now. So let's segue to that because what you're doing is unique. It's totally needed. It helps the professionalization of the industry because when people read a third-party article, all of a sudden, hey, maybe what you're doing, Bob, Bill, Mary, isn't so flaky. Wow, maybe what you're doing has some legitimacy because XYZ magazine or Ezine or whatever has written about you. So what was that point where you said, okay, I'm going to get out of being a distributor, but I love the industry. I'm turned on by the industry. I love entrepreneurs. I love to help them. What was that let's call it that Galileo moment, right? Where you had that amazing wake up call where you just said, okay, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And for me, it was the point where, again, it's the old Tony Robbins quote, where kind of the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change. Then I decided to change. And it was, for me, I'd been in now 3 different companies and I felt like things didn't work out because of something that was a corporate direction decision and it didn't have to necessarily do with my direction and decision. And granted, looking back in retrospect, I was the one who decided which company I was running in. And so that was a lesson I didn't learn that you did learn, of how to evaluate companies. I didn't know how to really do that. And so the conclusion I made wasn't, okay, I need to get better at evaluating companies and find the one that I can actually stick with long-term. But instead, the decision that I made was I was like, I need to start my own company so that if something fails, it's on me. It's my issue. It's my fault. If this doesn't work out. And that was kind of the driving force to figure it out. And I also had built kind of a reputation for myself on social media at the time and building the companies, through social media and using it. And back in, 2014, 15, 16, and 17, this was something that a lot of people didn't really know how to do yet, and they were looking for ways to go and do it. And so I already had a bunch of people asking me, how do you go and do these things? And so, what I decided is I'm like, all right, if there's a need, they're already asking me. I'm very uniquely positioned to be able to serve people in this because I haven't just been able to build a brand for myself, but I've also been able to leverage that to build a network marketing company and teach others how to do it. And so I can help people because I've done it before. Maybe I can explore this. And so it started really on the Instagram side of things. We help people kind of like grow their followers and different strategies. from growing their followers. They wanted to get like that blue check mark, that fancy check mark that at the time really significant, like kind of was significant for credibility and notoriety. And what I learned is that the way to be able to get that blue check mark was getting like anywhere from 10 to 15 full feature articles on you. And so that was the real reason I began to start to reach out to various contributors at different publications, was because I needed to help my clients, who were Instagram people, get verified, and press was kind of a requirement to go out there and get the verification. And so I started to try to solve the problem of how can I guarantee publishing for my clients to be able to basically, help them with this. And what I learned was that a lot of these contributors at various publications are required to publish a certain amount of content, like per month. And it's just one of their things. And what they have to do is they have to go find a story to go and tell. And so what I did is I reached out to people and I built relationships with them. And I basically said, hey, you're looking for entrepreneurs and business people to write a story about. What if we could collaborate? I have all of these people who are massively successful. They have incredible stories to go out there and tell. And, they're looking to get their story published. I can go and bring you the stories. I'll even pay you a fee for helping me get published. So to help you make more money, you do less work. And it's a win for me because now I can help my clients get guaranteed publishing. And so it was kind of like a win-win-win for everyone. It was a win for the contributor, a win for our clients, and it was a win for me. And so I started to build these different relationships slowly but surely. And through that, I ended up learning the power of PR, because a lot of us in network marketing have learned kind of like the credibility triangle, right? Like when you edify, like in a three-way call, right? It's like you have you, your upline, and then you have the prospect, right? And between you and the prospect, there's trust. Between, you and the upline, you edify them. And then that creates respect between the prospect and the upline, and that helps with the three-way calls when you're going in, pitching the story and things like that. And so what I kind of realized is that if you just replace the like the upline with a brand, then it works the exact same way. So like, for example, if you have, let's just say Forbes, because it's a brand that everyone knows. So between, Forbes and the prospect, there's respect because they know Forbes, between you and the prospect, there's trust. And then Forbes edifies you through an article, and then those three things kind of completes that triangle, and it makes it people more likely to take the information that you're saying, and they actually trust it, And so we started to see kind of the power of this, and we also started to see how PR could be used for recognition. So like if a client hits a distributor hits a certain rank, every company has recognition bonuses that they give, but, being able to give them a full feature article in, US Insider or the United Business Journal or something like that, where, they get a phone call from our team saying, hey, just so you were nominated for this article. I'm excited to let you know you were, your story was approved and we get the honor and privilege of writing the article on you. Congratulations. And when somebody on your team or your downline gets that phone call and they don't know that it's there, it's really powerful. It's like the recognition when they walk across stage, and we know that as network marketers, that's one of the big things. But the difference between this and when you walk across stage is that when they get that article is an internet-based article. So they get a link to it. And that link lives on the internet forever, versus when you go on stage, it's kind of like, yeah, you can take a picture of it and you can keep talking about it and things like that. But with this, you get an article that goes online. And so now when people are Googling your name, this article comes up. So it's like an evergreen asset and resource and tool. So it's almost like we invest in the teams by giving them tools, resources, and recognition. It's the combination of all three of those things in one thing. And so I started to see the value of just PR alone through this process. And so that really inspired me to continue to go make more relationships with more contributors at different publications across the country and across the planet. Now we have 394 publications that we have relationships with. We can offer guaranteed publishing in all of them. And I think one of the most powerful things about it is that we'll never publish an article unless the client approves it. And I think this is important because traditional PR companies, you're paying them a retainer where they're pitching on your behalf, and there's no guarantee that there's even going to be a publishing from that, but you're paying them regardless. But even if it gets accepted and the journalist tries to write about something, you have no control of what they say. It could be inaccurate. accurate. But with us, we can make sure the accuracy of the article is there. We can make sure the narrative that is being shared is again, an accurate representation of who you are. And this becomes a really, really powerful tool. And when I look at the network marketing industry, we're in the storytelling business. And I just think that this is a unique way to tell the story that many people haven't seen yet, and in a way that the general public will be more open to and will respect, a little bit more than some of the things that we've seen in the past, just simply from a principle, basis of what I've kind of shared.
Well, just two things I'll add to that real quick. Amongst many things that I love about what you're doing and why I'm such a fan of yours. Number one, let's say you're building a group in a particular city, okay, and maybe it's not a city you live in, maybe it is a city you live in, right? Let's say Miami, for example, right? You and I've had this
Yeah.
discussion, Luke, and you want an article in one of the Miami big publications because you're building there. He can do that. You want it in Dallas, he can do that. You want it in Toronto, he can do that. You want it in Beijing, he can do that. You want it wherever it is that you're working and building, that you need that little bit of media to say, hey, wait a minute, don't just take my word for it. We were written about in this publication. That's local for those people. You pull it up and send it to them. Instantaneous credibility. Secondly, instantaneous credibility from another standpoint. Because one of the problems over the 40 years I've been doing this is somebody says, well, that's nice. Of course, your company says nice stuff about you in their journal. Of course, they're going to say good stuff, right? What are they going to say? Bad stuff? Of course not. They want to sell product too, right? Third party, folks. Okay. Third party is strong. Okay. So don't miss the ability to do that through Luke's company, which is why you need to get in touch with him. If you're watching this or listening to this on our podcast, take full advantage of it. Contact Luke, find out some of the services he offers. He's a young, growing, dynamic guy. He's got a great team around him. I've worked with some of the people on his team. They're all professionals. Okay. They'll respect your time. They'll work around your schedule. But find out what these guys are doing because it's magical and you got to use it. So let's come back. So 400 publications, roughly, right? 394, be 400 before we know it. Let's go through the process, okay? Because I know you offer something kind of unique for somebody as long as they've got a team. I mean, if you have 10 people on your team, you don't need this, okay? But if you're listening to our show, you probably have a team that's substantial, okay? I know a lot of our listeners are people that are number one in their companies. I know a lot of people that want to be number one in their company. They're in the top 10 or top 20 or top 50, and they're endeavoring to get there. How can you guys help them? What's the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing that we do is we just do a quick audit on you and your business, because just like you said, we unfortunately can't get everybody, like the newest member, done. But assuming that you do have some sort of credibility, then we can make it happen. And the baseline is building an organization. Roughly, if they can be at like a $10,000 a month range, then you're likely to get approved for this. And so that's the first thing. There's a simple little application process that we put people through, or we do our own review on you, independently. If we contact you, that means we've already done the review. We already know where you're at. And we know that you'd be able to qualify for that. So that's step number one. Once you have gone out there and been approved for it, then the second thing that we do is we just simply get on a call and we do a simple strategy session. And so we want to kind of figure out what some of your goals are, what you're looking to go out there and do. And then we want to offer you a free article because we want to teach people how to, basically not even teach people how to, but we want to let people try it before they buy it. A lot of people hear this concept and they think it could be cool. They think it could be great. But they don't know yet, and they don't necessarily want to invest in it. And so before we ask like any money from you, we actually pay for your first article, again, assuming that you qualify with the application. And it's a $500 article that we're going to get for you, just so that you can experience this whole process. And then after that, you can decide whether or not you want to move on to, a larger package. So after we go out there and we decide on the free article, you say yes, fantastic. Next thing that we'll do is we'll schedule an interview with you with our editorial staff. Come to that interview. We'll give you the questions ahead of time. You can go ahead and take a little bit of time to review them, answer them in written format for you to go out there and just have something to reference to and have an idea of what you want to talk about through the interview. The interview will take anywhere from probably 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how much you want to expand on a lot of the topics on yourself. Then after that interview, our team will begin the editing process. And once we write that first draft, we will send it back to you. And we begin what we call the editing cycle, where basically you say, okay, I like this, I don't like this. And you basically help us create and craft the perfect article. And we will go back and forth as many times as we need to in order to help you get that perfect article. And we will never submit it and move on to the next step until you approve that final draft. And so we are very, very committed to telling your story the way that you want it to be told, just so that it is accurate. Once you do approve that final draft, then we submit it to the contributor at the particular publication that we're going to be working with. Once submitted to them, they will submit it for publishing. Then there's a thing called the turnaround time, which is basically the lag time between when we submit it for publishing and when it goes live. Then the article will go live. We will get a live link. We will send it to you. And then immediately, once you get that live link, the article will begin to SEO, on Google. And of course, based on some factors like the domain authority and do follow and some technical stuff that we don't have to get into too much here today on this call, but we can talk about, if any of you guys are interested in it. And then also the number of clicks on the article is going to determine how well that's actually going to go and rank on Google. And the goal is if you can get enough articles with good domain authority, then you can actually make it so when people Google your name, you can almost like control what they're going to see, because so many people, especially in the network marketing space, I remember when I was in, my first company, everyone would go and do their research and they'd Google the company or something like that. And there'd be some blog, from some company that, gave their opinion. It was negative and it was inaccurate, but everyone took it as facts, and we lost some really good potential people just because they were going off of inaccurate information on the internet. And so if we can help anticipate the fact that are people going to do their research, and we can make it so that they can see accurate information instead of all these, BS blogs that are there, kind of put up a counter narrative, then that can be, super, super helpful, for people. But again, the idea of the PR plan that you do after the free article is up to you. We're going to create a custom plan for you based on your budget and based on your goals to make sure that that fits for you. So this can be anything with a corporate company. It can be huge PR plans. If you're a new distributor wanting to kind of get your foot in the door, I wouldn't say new because you got to have some experience, but let's just say in the early stages of your business and you just want to get your foot in the door and do an article or two, we can go ahead and make a budget friendly, PR strategy for you as well. So there's a lot of flexibility around that.
And let me talk about that for a second, Luke, because you and I have been going back and forth for a couple of weeks on a few different ideas, and every time we talk, I get more ideas. And you're making this old guy work, man. You're making my brain work. That's good. Keep the Alzheimer's and dementia at bay for a while. But let me talk to my friends here who've been on the show that are authors like myself. Okay, for example, everybody hopefully knows the book Moving Up, the Amazon bestseller. Okay, hopefully Leave Nothing to Chance. Okay, but if you don't, if you're a new listener, go up to Amazon and get them. By the way, there's a lot of stories in here about successful people, but more than that, there's the strategy and tactics that I've employed for 40 years to be at the top rank in 5 separate companies in that time and consulting for some of the largest success stories in the history of the industry. There's my plug for me. But when Luke and I started to talk, I said, I've had a problem. One of those problems was Moving Up 2020 comes out when? The end of 2019, right around Christmas time, okay? Leave Nothing to Chance, all right? We wrote these books at different times, believe it or not, but just the way things worked out. That one comes out in February 2020. Now, I don't want to give anybody a heart attack here, but think for a second that time frame, right? That we all want to erase from our memories. Around the beginning of 2020 is about the worst time to launch anything that you have to go out and speak to the public. I'm a meeting guy. I've given meetings literally all over the world, over the last 40 years. I have an audience. I pitch my book. Hey, you ought to get my book. People go up to Amazon and buy it. I have a couple of cases there. You can buy them. I'll autograph them, blah, blah, blah. I'll sell 1,000 books in a weekend. I don't have an audience. My audience has disappeared because of, I don't know, some little thing called COVID. Okay, understandably. So we've had these books out there, but we haven't been able to really get them out in a major way because there hasn't really been the event structure to do that at. And you can't go to your big corporate event and pitch your books. I mean, you're there to do something that the company wants you to do. So you really can't do that. So you're kind of, you're selling one here, you're sending one to this guy there, and maybe he'll promote it, and other podcasters. And we've gotten them out there, and we've sold enough to become Amazon bestsellers with both books. But at the end of the day, the book never had the impact. Now, I know some of you that listen to this show, you've had the same problem because we've talked about it. Okay, I know there's at least 20 people that I've interviewed in the last 2 years here. You've had the same problem I've had. You launched something at the worst time, probably in human history, to launch something that you got to go out and sell. Okay, so even if you launched your book a couple years ago, get with Luke, let him reposition it, do the free article, do a couple of subsequent articles after that to get your brand out there again, to get things, get the machinery moving again. Okay, that's just one idea. And by the way, I sound like there was a guy, I forget his name, but he bought a company one time, a clothing company. He said, I was a customer for so long, I had to buy the company or something. I'm a customer of Luke's. Okay, I'll say that. Luke is going to be a sponsor of our show, by the way, now too. So we are working together because I love media and he loves media. But listen to me, folks, utilize this service. He's got something unique. This is second point, unique selling proposition. You can't go get into media. Okay, there's a skill set that he's got, that his team's got. They didn't just dream this idea up in 5 minutes and say, let's go out and do this. They've done the work, just like your network marketing company. You got a product, you got a marketing plan, you got a back office. Somebody did all that for you. All you got to do is go out and market. Luke's got all of those pieces in place. Let him market you. Let him market your brand. Let him market your network marketing business if that's what you want to do. But get in the conversation with these guys. Let them know what you're doing. Let them help to guide that path for you, okay, to get you back out there and get you relevant. And I'll tell you, I had the free article at this point that we're talking. The free article was the first thing that we did, okay? And I sent it to a friend of mine who I haven't really seen in about 20 years. Ironically, this guy moved back here from Missouri, lives here in Texas now where I live. And we got together because of that article, had lunch, reacquainted. He started to use my company's product. He had great results with it. He's now in the business. That's one. I'm not going to tell you there's 10 of them. There's not. There's one. Okay. What if that one guy who's got the ability to do what he's done previously does it in my company now? I don't know what he's going to do at this point. It's unknown. He's just getting started. But I can tell you, he's already lined me up with a guy who's authored 7 books on fitness. Do you think that guy can open some doors? Okay. That's the kind of tool that Luke is offering. So listen and listen well. And most importantly, the ACT word, act. Do something with this information that this young man's giving you. Okay. Let him be your marketing arm to get you out there so you spend your time closing business for new customers and new distributors. Let him help you to do that. So, Luke, let's come back here. Let's give all the details, how they get in touch with you guys, and any other relevant information that you think that they're going to need. And you're a distributor at heart, so you know what they need better than I do. So I'll shut up and let you go ahead and tell them what to do.
Hey, I really appreciate all the kind words. I do. And before I dive into that, I just got to say, John, I'm so grateful that we were able to get connected, because I think that's something that's so unique about you, is that with your 40 years of experience in this industry, you have such a unique perspective, and you've seen kind of like the flash in the pan things that it's like a kind of a good idea. Will it work? Will it not? And you have a unique perspective where you can accurately evaluate, these tools and these resources. And so to hear you say this, I'm blushing over here, because I just am so grateful for that. And I'm excited to be able to combine kind of new school tactics and technologies with the old school principles. I think that's a deadly combination. And so just thank you for your energy there. And for those of you guys that are interested in getting in touch with me, I am on, all social media platforms. Instagram is my primary one. You can find me at Luke_Hessler. That's LUKE_Hessler, HESSLER. Also active on Facebook as Luke Hessler as well. Twitter at Luke_Hessler. And you can always go to our company website as well. Just go to getfreepr.com. Again, that's getfreepr.com. And you can apply for that free article. There'll be a landing page there. There's a video of me kind of sharing, divulging a little bit more information and details regarding the process and what the article can look like and things like that. And there you can apply for that free article, and then we will happily be able to go out there and serve you. So.
And by the way, folks, we'll have all that Luke just shared in the show notes. And starting with this show, which is May 17th, Luke's going to be one of the sponsors of the show going forward. So you'll be able to do that. But take advantage of it. And, Luke doesn't have a huge staff, but he's got an adequate staff. So don't worry about overwhelming them. These guys act fast. They're young. They're aggressive. They're what I used to be, young and aggressive. Now I'm old and aggressive, but take advantage of it, folks. Look, I love our listeners. I know many of you personally. We know each other in some cases just through the internet, just through Facebook and stuff, but take advantage of this, man. I wish this had existed 40 years ago. Okay. Because when my own parents said to me, "You're going to do what?" Well, if I had an article written about me, wow. You know what's funny? About a year into the business, maybe it was 2 years. My first company had the problem with food and drug. And they're still in business, by the way, that company. It's one of the great companies in our industry. It resurrected itself and just is a great company. Okay. But I went and I joined a fairly small company, and they had a guy named, oh, I'm going to forget his name right now. I was talking about him with a guy I interviewed a couple weeks ago. And he wrote a book called They Dared to Be Free. And I was like I'll never forget, I was a 24-year-old kid. And he wrote about me, about 2 paragraphs. Well, guess how many of those books I bought? 1,000. Because I had no credibility being 24 at the time, right? There was no internet. There was nothing else. I had no way to prove my case to anybody. But all of a sudden, I was in this guy's book. And all of a sudden, some of those barriers that people had got torn down. That's what we can do now with Luke's service, and we do it much quicker. Much, frankly, those 1,000 books back then even were $2.50 a piece, or $2,500. 24-year-old kid, that was a lot of money for me at that point in my life. Okay, this is not an expensive process. Okay, but take advantage of it. Okay, and take advantage of it quickly and get your business out there. Because here's the other thing, Luke, and we can probably close here because I think we've made your case. America needs leadership. I love a 29-year-old guy like you, young family. I know you just had your first baby, that's committed to helping entrepreneurs grow. Because if the United States and Canada and anywhere else that you're listening to this call in English, the world needs young entrepreneurial leaders to take us into the next generation. It's not going to be old guys like me. It's going to be the young people that do it. So if you're listening to this and you're 30, 35, 40 or younger, or even a little bit older, don't worry about your age. Okay. Take advantage of working with these type of tools. So Luke, on that thought, I'll pass it back to you and for a closing message.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could go for another hour on just that alone because I'm so passionate about us young people just stepping up and taking responsibility and being the change that we want to see in the world, kind of like what Gandhi says. And I think that we have one of the most unique opportunities on the planet. We live in an age where we can connect with 60 people in 60 countries in 60 seconds at the click of a button. We have access to technology and information that was not available ever. I like to say that you can ask Siri things that weren't available in the Library of Alexandria. And it is unbelievable the opportunities that we have right now, especially as young people. But it's a double-edged sword because with that comes distractions, and you can decide whether or not you want to use these technologies or if you want to be used by these technologies. And if you don't decide, you have decided, because you will be used by the technologies, period, end of story. And so I really encourage anybody that is listening to this, that is young, to just take responsibility, step up and realize that there is no time like the present. We think that we've got all this time in our life, but I'll tell you now, at 30 years old, a father now, time just keeps speeding up. Like, I can't believe I tell this story. Just started when I was 19. I'm like, wow, that was 20, or not 20, that was over a decade ago. And it just seems like yesterday. And so I think that right now is a really unique time in our nation. I think people are looking for leadership. I think people are looking for opportunity. I think they need opportunity. And that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the network marketing industry, because it allows anybody, no matter your race, your religion, your socioeconomic status, your age, your gender, your anything, to hit the reset button on their life financially, escape the prison of poverty. You get to connect with a community of people that believe in you. You get access to unique information, people who have a vested interest in your success. And you can connect to people like John, who have been there and done that. And they can be the guide, because yes, us as young people, we've got the energy, we've got the ideas, we've got things like that, but we also need to be able to have the humility and the coachability to be able to learn from those people who have come before us. Because I've learned in my life that you can figure stuff out in one of two ways. One is through mistakes, falling, figuring it out, scraping your knee, getting back up, or you can learn through mentors people who have already made those mistakes. And to be honest, it's stupid to try and just learn from your own mistakes, because it takes a lot longer and it is much harder and it's much more painful. And of course, you got to learn from your own experience at some point within life, but being able to find mentors like John and other leaders in this network marketing industry who I'm sure are listening to this right now, you guys have a duty, you guys have a responsibility. And I just pray that you guys step into that calling and you guys really go out there and again, just be the change that you want to go and see in the world. And I'm here to support you in any way that I possibly can. I feel like that's my calling. That's my mission in this earth. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Luke. This has been a privilege, an honor, and a necessary tool going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Soloder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.